How long does it take to learn jazz piano? Hey, it's Paul Tobey here from jazzmental.com. It's a fun question, and one which you may be asking yourself. If you like jazz and you've admired it for a while and you're already a fairly decent piano player, you might be thinking to yourself, how long does it actually take? So I've decided to dedicate this video. We're going to take about 10 minutes to go through the things that you actually need to learn and approximately how long it will take to learn those things. Okay, so I just want to remind you that if you like this channel and you like this video, give it a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. While we're doing this, if you have to cut out early, but please stick around to the end because I think you're going to be interested in some of the things that you need to learn in order to play jazz piano. So to start off with, I'm assuming you have some type of piano skills. If you've taken Royal Conservatory, maybe grades 7 and 8 are plenty in order to start playing jazz piano, maybe even grade 6. But the difference is we're not playing notes off of a piece of paper, we're playing notes by understanding harmony. And I totally get that harmony in classical music is difficult to learn, but it's actually a little bit easier in jazz. And in order to understand it, I've chosen a piece of music which is Bye Bye Blackbird. It's called a jazz standard. It's one of the things that jazz piano players absolutely need to learn is a list of standards so they can go to jam sessions and play with other musicians. In this case, Bye Bye Blackbird is one of the simpler tunes to play. In other words, there are much more complicated jazz tunes, so I've chosen this one because of its simplicity. So let's take a look at it. The first thing that you need to learn in jazz is what a chord is. And a chord is simply more than one note played together. And in jazz, the goal is to play chords which are more rich and full. And so we build those chords in tertian harmony based on the chord symbol that's given. So the first chord here is F. You can see that it lasts for 5 bars. We're not actually going to do that for 5 bars. I'm going to show you the next stage of it in just a second. But first, an F means an F major scale. So this is the scale. I think we've all played an F major scale before. But out of that scale, you build a chord in thirds as far as you can get. So like this. So that doesn't sound that great because one of those notes creates quite a dissonance, this note, which is the 11th, and it creates a flat 9 with the third of the chord. Probably one of the harshest sounds in music. Now, there is a place for flat 9s, but it's not on major chords. So that's what you need to learn. You need to learn chords and which note from the scale is not available in each specific chord. So once you learn that, and it should take approximately 3 to 5 weeks to learn the different scales. So there's major scales, and there's minor scales, and there's scales for other types of chords like 2 minor 7 flat 5 chords, and then 5 7 flat 9 chords. But again, don't worry about that right now. What you need to be concerned about with is just understanding the whole premise behind how the chords are put together. Once you learn that, and I have a plan for you, and you can learn more about this at jazzmental.com, and you can sign up to be notified when that particular course starts. Because I'm just in the throes of getting it put together. I've done it before and helped a lot of musicians learn this method, but I haven't really done it online to a significant extent. So jazzmental.com, sign up and you'll be notified. It's coming soon, trust me. All right. So now you understand the chord that comes right out of the scale. The next thing you need to know is what is the order that chords are put together. In other words, one after the other, what makes sense. And the most popular progression in jazz is 2-5-1, which means the second note of the scale, if we're in F, to 5, which is C, to 1, which is F. So a 2-5-1 in F sounds kind of like this. And part of learning jazz means learning that in more than just one key, learning it in C major, or in A flat major, or in G flat major. But there's patterns to follow in order to do that, and those patterns should take you another 4 or 5 weeks to get under your fingers. Also, I have methods on how to do that. So, once you learn what chords are, then you learn how chords are put together, mostly 2-5-1. Then you go a little bit beyond that, and everything becomes circle of fifth, which means 6-2-5-1. In other words, 6, of course we're in the key of F, to 2, 5, to 1. And if you keep going in cycle of fifths, you get this. And each of those can have a chord on top of it. For example, and so on and so forth. And that's basically how jazz is put together. A series of 5-1, 5-1, 5-1, and going through what we call the key of the moment. That premise can take you a long way in jazz, and it's really not that hard to learn. So if we start off with the first part, you're looking at 3 to 4 weeks maybe. Second part, 5 weeks, and maybe another 3 to 4 weeks on top of that. So now we're at like 10, maybe 12 weeks. Once you know that, then everything starts to get a little bit easier because you learn how to read chords and start to put them together in a song with a little bit of rhythm, which is kind of like the third part. Rhythm in jazz is a little bit difficult because it's on the backbeat. It's probably one of the hardest things to learn. A lot of people think that it's jazz harmony, but it's not. It's really about rhythm. So while classical players play scales like this, jazz players play it like this. With the second note being the note that's accented. That takes a while. That could take you months, actually, and that's what people don't really get, and that's why their playing sounds kind of hokey because they're not playing on the backbeat. So even when you take a look at a tune like Bye Bye Blackbird, the second note is the note that gets the accent. Get the idea? So again, it's really all about that beat. And of course, drums help a lot with that. Bass helps a lot with that. But it's really a feel thing, and you really need to just internalize that over time. It can't really be taught other than I can show you the way to play scales. So again, if classical musicians are playing a scale like this, we're putting in an extra note to make it even, which is this note. And the reason why we put that note in is because it's called a passing note, and that's called a bebop scale. So if you learn a few different bebop scales, and you learn to put the beat on the second note instead of the first, then it starts to sound like jazz. And eventually, you should be able to start playing a song like Bye Bye Blackbird and get it to sound maybe something like this. The goal of learning jazz piano is to get those chords under your fingers. It takes a little bit of time. I'm suggesting a good 6 months of a couple hours a day, and you should really make a pretty good dent in jazz. But you got to have some instruction. You can't just wing it. It's not something that you can learn really on your own. You need some instruction. So again, go check out jazzmental.com and sign up, and we'll notify you when these courses are ready. And I'm really talking about beginner jazz courses and going back to the beginning. More advanced stuff, we can deal with that, but the beginner stuff, we're just putting that together now. So we'll notify you when it's ready. Thanks for your time. Thanks for spending a little time with me. It's Paul Tobey. This is a fairly new YouTube channel, and we'd be really grateful if you could give it a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. So we'll be adding about 5 videos a week, just like this one. The videos are mainly focused on technical skills development, recording tips, and even professional and business development for musicians like you who want some help from a professional musician like myself. So I've toured 17 different countries, made 8 albums, was signed to a really good label, and made a full-time living as a professional artist. So I know and I'm confident that I can be a great resource for you. Subscribe now, and I'll see you in another video.